before we get into it, like I said, this might be a little bit controversial, but welcome back to 90s Bball Cards, the most passionate content for card collectors on YouTube and possibly the entire internet. I, as always, am your host, Jake Roy, 90s Bball Cards on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and obviously YouTube as well. So today I've got what might be a little bit of a controversial video for you. So the NBA's back. I'm very excited. We're going to see basketball games. We're already starting to see basketball games again. The playoffs and the championship are going to be played. But everybody obviously is aware that the teams that are participating in this kind of abbreviated postseason, if you will, are in a little bit of a bubble in Orlando. So today I want to look into 10 players that have opted out of that bubble and what that may do to their card prices. All right, so like I said, we're going to look into 10 players. It's actually going to be a little bit more than 10 players, but 10 players who are either opting out or are not going to be in the Orlando bubble for a plethora of reasons. For each player, it might be a little bit of a different circumstance, but I want to discuss what I think it may do to their card prices. And the reason why I think this is important for card collectors, not really looking at it from the investments perspective, but if you collect one of these players or you're interested in one of these players, is it a good time for you to grab some of their cards perhaps? So that's kind of some of the stuff that I look at. If there's a player that I like, that I think something might be impacting their prices to the point where I can get them for a better price, kind of get a little more bang for my buck. That's what I like to look at. Now, before we get into it, like I said, this might be a little bit controversial, but I want to caveat this video. I do not have any cards of any of these players. I should say, I don't have any significant cards. Any of the cards that we're going to talk about of these players, I don't own any of them. I don't have a stake in the game, so if these cards go up or down, it makes no difference to me. When we talk about Zion, I don't have any Zion cards in my collection. I would like to get some, but I don't own anything. When we talk about Durant, the only cards that I have of Durant are maybe a couple base cards that I've pulled. I have no rookies of him. So I do not have any skin in the game as far as what happens to these card prices. It's just something that I think is a little bit interesting that I wanted to talk about with you and share some of my thoughts and also get your opinions. Now, the other thing that I also want to say is I'm not going to be going through an in-depth or exhaustive list of reasons why I think this. I'll kind of touch on a little bit, but the Sports Card Investigator has done some videos where he kind of discusses a pretty lengthy process of how you should evaluate a player and whether or not you want to buy or sell their cards. I strongly recommend you go and take a look at his videos to see some of what I do in my process of evaluating some of these guys. So I'm going to touch on some of the factors. It's not an exhaustive list of everything because I want to keep this relatively abbreviated, but I don't have a stake in the game for any of these players, and I'm also kind of giving you a condensed version of my rationale as to why I think what I think about these players. So with all of that out of the way, I want to make sure that you guys know kind of where I stand and the reason for this video. Let's get right into it. So the first player, we're going to kind of go from, probably some of the less sought-after players to some of the more sought-after players. So the first one I want to talk about is Avery Bradley with the Lakers. So he has opted out because of family health issues, so it's not any health issues with him. Do I think that him opting out of Orlando will impact his card prices? Yes, I do think that that will be an impact for him. Avery Bradley is a great role player. He's a great 3-and-D guy. He's been an integral part of a lot of teams. The Celtics are one of the teams where he kind of started to burst onto the scene. And the Lakers are prospective championship contenders. So we often see times in the playoffs when a role player for a team that is doing well and going far in the playoffs will have an uptick in their prices as they have some good performances. If they have a significant memorable moment, hit a game-winning shot, have a significant defensive stop, some sort of a significant play, sometimes people will start to look at their cards and their cards will take a little bit of an uptick. So without him in Orlando, without him playing in those games, people are probably not going to be looking at him. They're probably going to be overlooking him. And, if the Lakers go on to win multiple championships or have multiple runs and he stays with the team for a couple of years, this might be one of those times that he kind of gets overlooked, but he might have success in the future. So, yes, I think that for Avery Bradley, it's going to be an impact for him and his cards. Next up is Zaire Smith with the 76ers. So he's out because of injury. And I do not think that this will have a big impact on his card prices. Now, Zaire Smith is a young player. There's a lot of excitement that he could be very good, but he has not shown a lot of that yet in games. He's not a significant contributor. He's not a regular starter for the Sixers, so I don't think that he is going to be significantly impacted. I don't think that he would have really had a very significant role in these playoffs. Now, he could have burst onto the scene all of a sudden, but we hadn't been seeing that during the season yet. He's kind of a little more of a work in progress. So I don't think this is going to have a significant impact on his card prices, because I don't think that he was going to have a significant run of personal success in the playoffs. So getting to some more of the more established guys, we've got LaMarcus Aldridge with the Spurs. So he is having surgery. And, he's a long tenured veteran. He's been in the league since 2006. I remember having, I should say, there is a card of his I have. I have a base chrome rookie of his. So I do have that. But, his cards aren't terribly sought after to begin with, comparative to where he is in his career. But I don't think this is going to have a very big impact on him. I don't think that a lot of people are expecting a ton out of the Spurs this year. LaMarcus Aldridge is one of those players that we kind of know who he is. He's established in his career. I don't think that he's going to be doing anything, in future years that's going to blow anybody away that we didn't expect to see out of him. So I don't think that his, cards are really going anywhere anytime soon. So I think they're kind of going to be pretty steady. I don't think that this is going to really be a much more than just a blip on the radar for him. And next year, I'm sure he'll be back and, performing consistently. I mean, he's a very consistent performer, and I think he'll continue doing that in future years. So no concerns there. So the next, it's kind of a grouping of players for the next group. So I want to talk about some of the non-big stars on the Brooklyn Nets. So we've got DeAndre Jordan, we've got Spencer Dinwiddie. Also, I'll throw Wilson Chandler in that. There's a number of other players. So kind of all those secondary stars. I think that them opting out of Orlando will have an impact. And the reason why, and we'll get to Kyrie and Durant later, but with Kyrie and Durant out, I think that this is a great opportunity for those guys who, aren't necessarily the focal point of the offense to really flourish and to really pad their stats and have some significant success personally. Whether or not the team goes very far is another question altogether, but seeing players put up some significant numbers and have some big highlights, I think is a very possible prospect. So not having that opportunity, or kind of opting out of that opportunity for guys like Dinwiddie, DeAndre Jordan, Wilson Chandler, and the like, I think is a missed opportunity. Now, it's not to say that I think that this is going to make their cards tank or anything like that. I just think that they had an opportunity to showcase some of their talents and some of their abilities that they are not going to be able to now that they're not going to be playing in Orlando. So, I don't expect a whole lot out of the Brooklyn Nets, because basically their roster is gutted. I think that they're going to be looking at some replacement players for a lot of these guys, but I think it's a missed opportunity for guys like that, DeAndre Jordan, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Wilson Chandler, as well as a cast of other characters on that team. So the next one here that we have is Victor Oladipo. So Victor Oladipo has been a sensational player since going to the Pacers, kind of a borderline all-star for a number of years, and he's kind of going to take a little bit extra time to heal from his injury, which I think is a very smart thing. I think Oladipo has a bright future. Being a Magic fan, I wish he'd stuck around a little bit longer. Kind of one of those missed opportunities by the Magic, I think, in getting rid of him a little bit before they could have. But this is one of those situations for him. I think it will have an impact on his card prices. He's one of those players, like I said, I think he's a great player. I think he's going to be an all-star many times over. But this would be a great opportunity for him to really shine in the playoffs. With the abbreviated format, I think that he could have really kind of had a coming out party on a national scale. So I think it's a little bit of a bummer for people who are fans of Victor Oladipo, but I wouldn't be too worried. I think that he's going to have a very fruitful career, especially if he stays in Indiana and kind of the mix that they have there with him and really showcasing him. And I think that him mending that injury a little bit more to make sure that he's 100% is probably going to be best for him in his career and potentially his card prices. So I think it will have an impact on him because it's, again, kind of a missed opportunity. He's going to be out of the limelight. But, if you're a collector of his, maybe it's a good time to pick up some of his cards. People aren't going to be looking at him. Maybe they'll be looking at TJ Warren or some other guys on the Pacers who are going to be performing well, and they'll be forgetting about Victor Oladipo. Maybe. We'll see. Next up, and we're getting to some more, highly sought-after players, Bradley Beal with the Wizards. So he is going to be resting an injury as well. He had the rotator cuff injury. It looks like he's not going to be playing so he can get back to 100%, which is a bummer. And again, I think it's a missed opportunity for him, but I don't think this is going to be a big impact on his prices. And the reason why is because he is a player that I've been hearing a lot of speculation that he's going to leave Washington, go to another team, potentially a bigger market. He's one of those guys that we hear a lot of people talk about. He's underrated. He's one of the better players, according to a lot of the NBA players in the league, that they don't think he gets his full due. And I think he's a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal basketball player. And, he's just starting to get a little bit more traction in the hobby. So I think that this is not really going to have a big impact because I think that his time to shine is coming in the future. I don't think it was necessarily going to be right now in the playoffs. I think it's going to be when he gets to a different team or when he gets to a team that is going to have more success, whether it's a bigger market or a more successful team. I think he's going to leave Washington and see some more success. So that's kind of my thought on Bradley Beal. I like him a lot. I think he is one of those players that can be, one of those, really the top tier stars in the league if he just gets a little bit more notoriety, and that's not happening in Washington, unfortunately. Next up is Bradley Beal's teammate John Wall. So, for a completely different reason, I also do not think John Wall's cards are going to see a significant change due to him not being in Orlando. Again, he's got an injury, and it seems like every year John Wall has an injury. I don't think we expected to see him back this year. But that's really the reason why I think that people are kind of a little tired. If you invested in John Wall or if you have, been a fan of his, I think that a lot of people are kind of growing tired of seeing him injured significantly, regularly, for long periods of time. And I think that the interest in him is starting to wane. Now, is he a great talent? Absolutely. Love seeing him in the dunk contest. Puts on great highlights. I think he's a very fun guy, a great personality, but I just don't see a lot of people getting excited about him in collecting, and mainly just because of his injury history, and it just seems like he's always out. Now, if he turns it around and he's able to stay healthy for a long period of time, that's great, but we've seen a lot of times, once the interest kind of comes and goes for you early in your career, it's very hard to kind of pick it back up. So I don't think this is going to have a significant impact because I don't think a lot of people are really too hot for John Wall cards. But I could be proven wrong. It remains to be seen, but we won't be seeing him in the playoffs this year. All right, getting into some of the more sought-after players. So Kyrie Irving, we talked about him a little bit with the Brooklyn Nets. Do I think that this is going to have an impact on him not being in Orlando due to surgery? Yes, I do. Kind of similar to the other guys, without having Durant on the team, or, healthy with the team, this is really Kyrie's show. It's Kyrie's team. And next year, we know that Durant is probably going to be back, to 100%. And I think that this was really the year for Kyrie to establish himself as the guy in Brooklyn. And I don't think that's going to be the case next year. So I think that because of that, it's definitely going to have an impact on him and his cards and his collectability. There's a lot of people who have kind of been waning on interest in him because, he had some success with LeBron, but he was kind of the second banana. He went to Boston. It was supposed to be his team. They didn't really meet all the expectations that they had set out in a lot of cases. And, it was kind of a debate. Is it really Kyrie's team? Is it Tatum's team? He's a young star, all that kind of stuff. So not going to hash out all that. But I think that this is another case in the study of Kyrie Irving where he's a phenomenal player, all-star level player, maybe an MVP level talent, but just is not able to have a team of his own and really capture all that attention. So I think this was his opportunity. This was his year without KD there, and that opportunity seems to be passing by him. So unfortunate. Next up is Kevin Durant, KD. So, we've seen him have monumental success, going to the finals with OKC, finals with the Warriors, winning the finals with the Warriors. Unfortunately, they were not able to do it last year against the Raptors because he popped his Achilles, and then this year he's been nursing that Achilles injury. And we knew that he was probably going to be out for the majority, if not the entire season. So last summer, I was actually thinking of doing a video kind of similar to this and talking about some players to pick up. And I was thinking that KD was probably a good player to pick up last summer. And, it's easy for me to sit here and say now, hey, I said that back then, without having put that out. But, we've seen that his card prices have been going up significantly. There's a lot of hype around him because people are expecting him to come back. And I don't see that hype changing. We know what he is. We know the talent that he is. We know what he could be when he comes back. And we know that he's coming back. So people are excited for him to come back. And we know we're not going to be seeing him this year. So I don't foresee his prices dropping. As the playoffs go on and there's some attention to the players who are playing in the playoffs, we might see his prices kind of level off a little bit. I do not foresee his prices dipping from where they are right now, just based on everything that's going on in the market. But maybe they stop rising as astronomically as they have been. Gary V talking about Kevin Durant definitely helps his cards, as we've seen a number of times in the past. So with other players. So that's kind of what I think. I don't think this is going to have a significant impact, and I think next year he's going to come back. It's going to be his team, as people are expecting, and Kyrie is going to be that that 1A to his 1, or kind of his Batman, being KD and Robin being Kyrie. So that's kind of my thought on KD. I don't see anything happening this offseason that's really going to shake his card value. So no impact to him missing time in Orlando. And then the last one, probably one of the biggest names to really rock the world this year for any reason, is Zion. So we heard that Zion is going to be leaving the bubble to go spend some time with his family. We saw that the Pelicans are in full support of him doing what he needs to do for his family and that situation there. They did not comment much further on what's going on, and I think that's probably fair. We know that a lot of people were expecting to, see some great highlights from Zion during their time in the bubble. They were excited to see what he can do. They were excited to see him play some more games after having some time off with an injury earlier in the season. We know that we've seen a lot of Ja Morant. We really want to see more of Zion. So I think that this probably will have a little bit of a dampening effect on Zion. I don't see it, I don't think that we're going to see Zion prices crash. We've been seeing them dip a little bit, but I think the people are still pretty high on Zion. They're pretty, there's a lot of anticipation to see him play a full season, to see him be healthy. It's still very early in his career. So, maybe a little bit of a dip, but not a significant dip. So I think it's going to be a impact, but not a drastic impact. I would not be pushing the panic button by any means. This is not something like he got another injury. He's dealing with some family issues. So let's give the guy a little bit of a break. But it is unfortunate. Maybe we'll be able to see him come back to the bubble. I'm not sure how the NBA is going to address that, and that would be very good for him if he's able to kind of come back into the bubble and get back into the fold and start playing some more as the season kind of wears on. But it remains to be seen how the Pelicans do, if they end up actually making it into the postseason games, the playoff games, if you will, or if they're kind of out once the postseason starts. So remains to be seen. So I think that it will have an impact, but not a significant one. So those were my 10 players that I wanted to discuss. Let me know what you think of my thoughts and assumptions on some of these players. Like I said, this might be a little bit of a controversial video, and I could be dead wrong on all these, but I wanted to put these out there. I think it's an exciting time. I see a lot of people talking about the players that they think are going to take off in the playoffs, and I want to talk about the flip side, the players who aren't going to be on the playoffs and what that might do. So kind of a little bit of a zig to the zag that we're seeing in a lot of the content for the playoffs and the players in the playoffs. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think of some of my assumptions? Do you hate them? Do you think I'm completely wrong? Do you think I'm a clown? Or do you agree with some of these assumptions? And I think it'll be kind of fun to, over time, come back and look at this and see how I did. This is the first time I'm doing a video like this. Like I said, I thought of doing a video like this last summer, and I chose not to. But another question, let me know what you think. Do you like this? Do you like me kind of expanding on some of my thoughts on the current market and some of the current players? Or do you want me to kind of stick to the 90s that I know best? I do enjoy modern cards. I know we've opened some Prism and unfortunately couldn't open any of the other modern products because it's all sold out everywhere. But that's another conversation for another day. I will make another video on stuff like that. But let me know what you think. If this is something you enjoy, you want to see more of these type of conversations, happy to do them. So drop that down in the comments, and shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, social media, or if you really enjoy it, share it and let me know. Thanks. We'll talk later. Bye.